All right, good afternoon, crew. How you all doing out there? You should be outside if it's nice and touching grass. But I did a pretty late live stream last night. You guys can go back and watch it if you want, covering some things. And we had developments overnight. And what we're basically looking at now is see if we can catch a stand-up of Russian strategic chatter because of a major drone attack by the Ukrainians on Moscow. There was quite a bit of damage. I'm going to play a short run of a news report from RT, catch you guys up to speed. And, well, good. You're outside eating a sandwich? Excellent. Now you need to find the closest body of water and toss all your electronic devices in and run free and wild, my friend. You'll be healthier for it mentally. Hello, Aaron. Good to see you back in here, bud. So let me play this news report, get you guys up to speed on what happened. I will be bouncing back and forth in the background, but we're going to try and listen and bounce around the HF to see if we can pick up Russian strategic messages, or to see if they're just shrugging this attack off, or if it's royally pissed them off. So, get you up to speed here.
Ukraine launches a record barrage of drones against Russia, with air defenses shooting down more than 500 UAVs overnight. Plus,
Amigo, where are you from? Еще один 300 на Колумбия. Тяжелый 300. Сейчас подлатаем. Welcome to Russia, брат. Come on.
RT hears exclusively from a Colombian mercenary captured by Russian forces who accuses Kiev of recruiting him under false pretenses.
I told myself, this is the shortcut. I came, couldn't even send my mom 100,000 pesos. And moreover, my mom at this very moment must truly believe that I am dead. If someone wants to come here, don't come here to die.
And also coming up in the program, Israel ramps up deadly strikes across Lebanon in apparent defiance of a US-backed extension of the ceasefire between the two neighboring states. Plus, demonstrators in Europe rally in support of so-called Nakba Day, marking the mass forced displacement of Palestinians in 1948. It comes as a Netanyahu cabinet member calls for the entirety of the West Bank to come under Israel's full control. Welcome to the weekly review of the stories that shaped the past 7 days, plus today's main developments right here on RT International. Russia faced a massive drone attack overnight as Kiev launched in excess of 550 UAVs at the country's border regions and indeed territories beyond. RT's senior correspondent Murat Gazdiev can take us through the bombardment.
According to some estimates, this is the single largest Ukrainian drone attack on Russian territories since the beginning of this conflict. 556 drones were shot down overnight by Russian air defenses. We've seen footage of those drones slamming into apartment buildings, into houses, people's homes, residential areas, all the way up to Moscow. 3 people killed, 17 injured. Overall, over the past week, dozens of people have been killed and injured all over Russia in similar attacks. Again, many of those drones hitting high-rise apartment buildings and residential suburbs. Now, over the past 24 hours, 1,056 Ukrainian drones have been shot down. Again, according to the statements published regularly after such attacks by the Russian Ministry of Defense, that is a record, as well as a slew of missiles, American HIMARS missiles, Ukrainian Flamingo and Neptune missiles, which were shot down over Russian territory. We know that 6 more unmanned sea drones were destroyed off the coast of Crimea by the Russian Navy. But overall, this was a huge attack, beaten off, but nevertheless, that is the message that Kiev is sending, that it is ramping up attacks into Russia proper. We heard many of those drones overflying Donetsk yesterday. Some were shot down, some went around the city and deeper into Russia. Overall, on the front lines, there's little for Kiev to be happy about or to celebrate. On many sectors of the front line, the situation for Russia remains stable. There's a huge discrepancy between the firepower that Russia is leveling and that Ukraine is leveling. This attack by Ukraine on Moscow, amongst other cities, is designed, evidently, to draw people's attention to the fact that they're striking Russia, to sort of discourage people from criticizing Zelensky on what's happening on the front lines. He can always say, well, look, we're hitting Moscow where it hurts. Never mind that, you know, there's no military bases or strategic targets were struck in Russia. It was a fireworks show to distract the Ukrainian public from a war that isn't going well and is getting worse.
Well, this month, Russian
Hello there, Jason. Good to see you coming in. So that's the report from RT. You heard it here. You've probably been seeing it popping on social media if you're paying attention on different accounts and on Twitter and things that monitor that situation over there relentlessly. And yeah, Aaron, you are 100% right. If this kind of stuff was going on during the Cold War, a lot of us probably would not be here to talk about it. So it is a large development. Russians typically don't respond right away to such things. It angers them, and then they respond, you know, in the future after they've mustered what they consider to be, you know, an equivalent response to it. But we'll see. All it takes is the wrong, you know, smattering of targets to get hit. It sounds like a lot of civilian infrastructure was hit. They probably aimed for, you know, oil, gas facilities, things like that. A few military targets around Moscow. So it caught my eye, even though the conflict is kind of static over there. In the last hour, since the wave pretty much, you know, kind of ended, there has been increased activity of basically encrypted voice message adjacent to the buzzer. So we know that the Moscow or former Western Military District is talking. They're not putting out, you know, widespread encoded open in the clear voice messages yet, but they are talking there, and we are I'm watching, you know, some of the other strategic channels on HF to see if there's much chatter. I haven't seen a whole lot, so don't know. We're trying to gauge how the Russians are going to respond to this. It's not going to be good, you know, for the Ukrainians, but that's where we're at on this Sunday, and we've got the pot still boiling over here. Washington's trying to figure out what they're going to do with their getting their PP slapped repeatedly during their visit with China. So, you know, in my live stream late last night, I know it was too late for many of you, so I wanted to kind of come on a little bit earlier today. But if you go back and watch my live stream when you have time, yeah, you did call it. I mean, it's a safe bet, ramjet, to assume that missiles or drones are going to fly in one direction or the other in that part of the country, but yeah, in that part of the world, I should say, and high. But yeah, if you go back and watch late live stream from last night, we got our PP smacked pretty hard diplomatically while we were over there talking to China. Didn't go well for us. But what's more dangerous to that is now these buffoons that are living in their own fart bubble have a better idea of where they stand in the world, and they're probably trying to figure out how to deal with that. So expect the typical announcements today by our administration to manipulate markets going into the trading week. The tough talk followed by the 2 weeks, followed by the 2 months, the 50 hours, and then more tough talk, and then it's going to glow, and then he's Jesus, and then he's not Jesus, and 2 more weeks, and then it's a stalemate. It's an impasse. If they escalate any more than what they already have, it's going to get really nasty really quick over there again. So, sum it up this week, our diplomatic outlook is between a rock and a hard place. Anything that they do is going to have extreme consequences that you're going to feel, and then Americans are going to take to the ballot box. So, it's not going to be good. You're going to continue to pay out the nose for fuels, oils. Things are going to start be limited by price. So we got an EAM popping. Let's see if they're ordering sandwiches or something's going on here.
Charlie, Bravo, Charlie, Tango, Delta, Bravo, stand by. Charlie, Bravo, Charlie, Tango, Delta, Bravo, stand by. Message follows. Charlie, Bravo, Charlie, Tango, Delta, Bravo, India, Kilo, 5, Echo, 7, 6, X-ray, Zulu, 6, November, 2, Tango, Papa, Uniform, Sierra, Oscar, Echo, Yankee, 5, Zulu, 4, India, I say again, Charlie, Bravo.
Okay, that was a boring standard, so not much there. But earlier in the day, that was all covered up by 8992 in Europe. Was completely covered up by over-the-horizon radar for a few hours, and as well as some of the Russian strategic channels were also covered up. So, yeah, that's what's going on right now, crew. Hello, lovely Lace. I know you missed last night's live, but you can always go back and watch it if you feel so inclined. But I'm here now, and like I said, I'll be somewhat in the background, and the chat will be open. You guys can talk amongst yourselves about stuff that's going on if you feel so inclined. But to quickly review, we're kind of watching the European theater right now to see if any nonsense is going to come to bear. Yeah, I certainly will escalate. It's just a matter of when and by how much. And I think they've they've already demonstrated they want to start hitting the higher command and control centers in Kyiv, because the Russian population is getting tired of this getting drug out as well. Yeah, possibly. I'm sure they'll talk about it when Putin and Z get together. Channel marker here. That's the pip and the buzzer. Channel marker for the buzzer is active with encrypted voice just off to the side of it, which is pretty standard when there's some activity. But that'll drive you crazy to listen to by itself, so. Looks like we got a E3 Sentry taking off in Greece. I wonder if it's going to fly the same path here in Southern Europe like it did the last couple days when there was possibility of Russian strikes. Thank you, Hoppison. Yeah, this is still a fairly new channel, and I'll ask a few times and then I'll probably not mention it a whole lot anymore, but you know, if you like what you see, if you like the information that you get here, if you like my point of view, do the things. Otherwise, there's no real reason for me to spend my time. I can easily hop off YouTube and go do other stuff like walk around outside, which would be better for all of us. I'd probably be doing you a favor if I just shut her down and told you to go outside and touch grass. I really do mean that. Make sure you do that for parts of your day, whether if you live in a city or out in the boondocks, like the compound here, the undisclosed station location. It is important to turn all this crap off and get away from it for a while. Walk around outside, go to a park, sit and watch geese on a lake. Anything. Get away from this stuff for as much of the day as you can. And some people are just addicted news junkies. They can't help it, or they don't have the opportunity. But wheel your ass over to a window and look outside. Turn all these screens off and just wheel your butt over to a window. Open it if you can and look outside and listen to the gunshots or the birds or whatever you got. You'll be way better off mentally. So don't spend too much time here if you can help it. But that being said, do the like, the share, the subscribe, be my cheerleader. And maybe eventually we'll get to the point where I can open up super chats, and then you guys can donate money for me to buy cool stuff, and then I'll set up cool stuff on the live, and then we'll both watch the cool stuff do its thing for entertainment. One of the things I'm thinking about doing, I was talking about in the latter half of the live stream yesterday, is I'm thinking about setting up a fully automated and streamable satellite tracking system, and also like astrophotography here at the station, because I am in a very remote location. It's low light. It's ideal for sky watching, and where I'm at, let me put it this way. There is often, to the east and to the north of me, very interesting things in the sky. And it's because I sit in a unique geographic location in the country that is kind of the crossways between military bases east and west. So there is a chance that if I can get enough funds raised to do this, we can watch and zoom very closely in and track some things that you will never see on flight radar or ADS-B. Many times you can see it with the naked eye out here, especially to the north. And so we can do a little bit of, what did old Hillary call it? UAPs is the new term. You can do some UAP watching. Some nights are better than others, naturally, because of atmospheric conditions and things like that. But typically on colder, cooler nights in the wintertime, you can see quite far to the north. And just with the naked eye, you can see some unusual activity. We'll leave it at that. So that's a possibility if my audience and followers decide to be generous enough that I will dump a lot of that stuff right back into getting cool gadgets and cool things for the channel. So, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. We can all go outside and watch the geese and listen to gunshots and whatnot, and that's just fine too. So, that being said, I hope you guys are all doing well out there. I hope you had a relaxing Sunday. Looks like we're getting some encrypted traffic adjacent to the PIP here as well now. And that sounds like ALE. It might be Russian ALE. And how about our side? Anything going on? Who's peopling, Leslie? Are you accusing someone of being sociable? Very dangerous allegations. Looks like a light one. No. Yeah, I don't want to make you guys listen to static for hours on end or a over-the-horizon radar, but we've kind of got some big, higher priority stuff getting ready to take off here from the UK as well. 4-digit priority transports. NATO's in the air. Ramjet, I hope you feel better soon, buddy. I hope you heal up quick. Tendon surgery, yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot of fun. Looks like we got an E6 coming back in from the Gulf after doing possibly some VLF, or at least being on station. Got a chrome flight. It might not be anything to get all flustered about. A couple SAM flights. We did have a air show crash in Idaho earlier today. I think both pilots made it, but we got some F-18s tangled together at speed, which is never good. It's a situation you want to avoid. So thankfully, I don't think anybody was hurt. Yeah, Jason, the 2 combat sentinels, that was a weather evac out of Offutt. So they just went down south to they went down into the southwest somewhere to get away from the weather that was rolling through the plains yesterday. No biggie. We're not going to move much here. As far as the U.S., I mean, on overt, what can be detectable is not going to be moving a whole lot here. We'll see some flashes in the pan, but right now, basically, administration doesn't know what to do. They're between a rock and a hard place. So you're going to get really confusing news over the next week and a half. None of it's going to be any basis in reality. It's just going to be posturing, spectacle, false miracles. Because they can't move anywhere. They're boxed in on many different sides, diplomatically and strategically, because there's nowhere to go. If we and our greatest ally decide to resume hostilities in the Persian Gulf area, Iran's going to move to phase 2, and the pain that's coming now, it'll probably be here by July, is going to be hors d'oeuvres. It's going to be just the appetizer, because Iran will move to phase 2 of regional destruction. They will make certain Gulf Coast countries unable to support their populations in the most basic ways. You're going to start to have refugee crises. You'll get real energy shock. You'll get the Chinese pissed off. You'll get the Koreans and the Japanese put in a very dire straits, energy resource-wise. They're already there now. So despite what you hear on the Sunday talk shows and things like that, there's really nowhere to go except way, way, way worse for you and way worse for allies. So they have to make the decision, are they going to allow for time to pass and start solving things diplomatically, start swallowing a little bit of pride and ego and admitting where they're at, and start to make amends and patch stuff up, and, start saying no to people. How close are we to finally go home to Jesus? I have no idea. That's for other channels, really. We don't really get into that here. People that think they are going to magically fly away when time gets tough. I don't share that. Sorry. You're going to have to figure it out. You're not getting out of this one by magically flying away. So, if you have other people that depend on you in life, I hope you don't truly believe that nonsense. It doesn't hurt to pray to the God of your choice, and if religion gives you strength, that's great. But it doesn't solve a whole lot of problems. It blind adherence to religion and things like that tend to make a lot more problems than they ever solve. So, yeah, you're going to have to work through this like everybody else. So, that's where we're at. Hopefully calmer, cooler minds prevail and nobody does anything really foolish. I saw a report earlier today that I don't think the ink's even dry yet. Russia and North Korea have basically come to a mutual defense agreement. So that's now on paper and doctrine. So you mess with North Korea, you're also messing with the Russians. You mess with the Russians, you're also messing with North Korea, which was, you know, it was a thing beforehand, but now it's official doctrine of both countries. North Korea recently amended their constitution, if you want to call it that if anything happens to Moon Pie, the nukes fly immediately. So that's never good. You know, so he could be out there looking at his forces with his binoculars and trip and fall down stairs, and all it'll take is some general to blame it on the U.S. or the West, and away we go. Then we all get to meet the flying spaghetti monster in the sky. Extra meatballs. All right, let's take another quick spin around the dial. No change. Maybe I should put some merch out too, because some of you guys are awfully obsessed with the sound of my Zippo lighters. Should I have soil special edition Zippos for sale on the merch site? I don't even have a merch site. I'm not going to do that. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Then I'll be making t-shirts and doing all that dumb stuff. Who wants to be walking around wearing a Soil Radio Dork t-shirt in public? Not me, and I'm Soil. See you later, Silver Commander. Thanks for stopping by. Read a story late at night. I kind of did that last night during the live stream. I talked about, we got into some of the questions the chat was talking about, and we talked a little bit about the missing American scientists and military members. I think we're up to like a dozen now. Yeah, soiled shirt. That reminds me, Ramjet talked about government-sanctioned alien butt stuff. I remember that. You know, alien abductions and some different accounts from like Nick Redfern, his story on military-assisted UAPs, or military-assisted alien abduction phenomena and different things like that. So, yeah, we talked about some wild stuff in the wee morning hours. You know, just fun stuff. Just messing around. Just kicking it around. Oh, and I did mislead some of you. Ramjet, were you were the one that was interested in SATCOM? I told you the wrong name. I don't know where I got that name. Hopefully it was not one I am going to get in trouble for disclosing, but I was thinking of the wrong guy. and I'll give you his info here. I don't want to tell you wrong again. For the really helpful guy that did YouTube videos for like DX engineering, and he did a lot of for SATCOM stuff, both homebrew and operating principles and things like that. I think I said Dave something. That was wrong. It's actually Sean. I'll look him up here so I can tell you his call sign. Let's see if this will play here. Okay, so good, won't play. So his actual name, Ramjet, if you want to look him up, is Sean Kutzko, KX9X, and he's on Twitter at Sean Kutzko, Kutzko, and his call sign is KX9X. But he's a fellow Illinoisan and did a lot of helpful videos and tutorials and stuff like that about working SATCOM and the basic stuff that you need without breaking the budget. Yeah, we had a good radio geek out too. We had a good radio dork session talking about how much interest is there actually out there for people in the sphere, or at least my followers, or not subscribers, but followers, listeners, whatever you guys want to call yourselves, crew. How much interest is there actually to dump tons of money into being able to do radio communication in an emergency event where in reality you really don't have anybody to talk to on the other end, or you don't have anybody willing to make the same investment in both time and skill and the monetary cost to set up a station. Because people are complaining about $200 to fill a gas tank. If you want to talk regionally with any type of success on a regular basis, you're going to have to dump $2,000, minimum $1,500 to $2,000 into a basic HF station, and it won't work all the time. You'll have band conditions failure, stuff like that. So, how much interest is there really into doing that kind of stuff? You'd honestly be better off buying the shelf-stable food, especially if you don't have anybody on the other side to talk to. How to read the dark blue weird chart with colored lines. Are you talking about the waterfall, Sparrow? Over yonder here? I mean, we can do that if you want to geek out. Yeah, the 1 a.m. and past live streams can probably get a bit sporty and sketchy. The thingy on the right. Okay. So what do you want to know, Sparrow Star, about the thingy on the right? I'm going to make it huge. So here we have you're forming your own militia. What? Not if the federales have anything to say about it. If you've got 10 quote unquote locals, you're going to have one fed in that 10. And if you've got 20, you're going to have 2. If you got 50, you're going to have 4. If you got 100, you're going to have 10. And the second you guys try and do anything serious, they're going to snip, snip, buzz, buzz. So, all right. So the waterfall, here's Sparrow Star. The waterfall gives you an RF signal visual reference point, basically. So if I'm going to let me try to make it as basic as possible for you. So you're looking at a visual representation of RF energy that this device is picking up. So the negative space, or if there was absolutely no noise coming into this device, right? In between, up here is your frequencies. In this gray bar here, your cursor shows what you're actually tuned into, what mode you have, okay? But just talking strictly about the waterfall, okay? If there was no noise and no signal, this entire screen would be black, nothing. So the blue, right, the really dark blue against the black over here where there's obviously no strong radio signal is noise. That can be from the sun, that can be from the local environment, like a generator set 3 miles away from this receiving location, a power plant, cars going up and down a road, anything that's making wide band, meaning many frequencies and width of just electrical noise, will show up as very, very weak. So if you go over here to the waterfall settings, you can see the color display bar down here and where it's currently set. And you can change that to, let's say, SDR DX and change it to a slightly different scheme. It's just going to change the color palette of the background. And if you want to change it again to, let's say, linear mode, it's just changing the color spectrum in the screen. So now you can see that low intensity signals are going to be in a really bright green, and then as you get over here, stronger signals are going to be in the magenta. And we'll turn up the ceiling. So floor is low at plus 2 dB. That's really, really almost non-existent static crackles. And then up here, plus 25 dB, that's signal strength of what's received. And then you can see that you actually have a sensible man-made signal over here. And changing the waterfall background, like you can see this really faint segment of signal here, that was an organized man-made signal more than likely. And we saw it because of this color contrast. I don't think it's going to continue. It might. But it just basically helps you visually find RF signals and see outlines in different ways, depending on what you're trying to watch. So let me change it back to, let's change it to turbo. And I just changed the color scheme again. So what the waterfall on an SDR does, it's a very good tool because you don't have to scan. Like, if you were sitting here with an old school, what they call a boat anchor radio, all you're going to have is a digital display of what frequency you're currently tuned into, and you can't see this. So a waterfall display is an incredibly powerful tool for quickly bouncing and catching signals that are in short duration, like military signals, quickly identifying something to whether you even want to bother clicking or tuning to that in the first place. And it just takes experience of seeing these signals, and you can quickly identify what they are simply by their waveform. And it helps you identify, the way like let's say a digital signal would be broadcast. The characteristics of its waveform help you identify what it is, and as you gain experience, you can quickly tell. Like looking at this, let's just take these 3 signals right here. I can tell you just by looking at them that these are digital packets right here, and they are basically for aircraft identification, right? And if we click on it in the single sideband, you'll be able to hear it if I unmute it. Okay, and that's a digital transmission. And it's a very specific digital transmission. And for whatever reason, this particular receiver doesn't have ACARS, but it's automatic. It's basically automatic telemetry for a flight, for an aircraft. And looking at this signal over here, I can tell you this is single sideband voice without seeing the volumet tag or any of that. I know just the way it looks. Okay, that's enough of that. I can tell you just by the way the signal looks that is a semi-weak single sideband voice waveform.
7 at 3,000 feet. Tempo from 1800 until 2400. Visibility 7 kilometers. Moderate rain chance. Visibility 0%. Tempo.
Okay, so that's basically a weather report in English in the European area for pilots and things like that. Let's see. What is with this tag? Okay. Let's see. So does that answer that? Yeah, this info tag, individual users of the SDRs, or individual owners, I should say, of the SDRs can put custom tags up there, and if they come across something they don't think you should listen to, they'll do weird stuff like this. You know, some of your quick tags, like here, pirates. You know, this area of the spectrum in the European theater is known as a frequent area where there's transmissions outside of the amateur bands, and you know, it's basically free space for either commercial or government band space, and there shouldn't be anything there like music or conversations. You know, and with an SDR, an HF SDR, we're only hearing a really small snippet, or seeing or hearing a really small snippet of the radio frequency, you know, bands. It's from 0 kilohertz, very, very small, or very, very long, large waves, to about 30 megahertz. And that's what's considered the HF band. So you can see huge pieces of empty space, and then you get down into, you know, the more workable sections of the HF band where most of your signals are. But there's all kinds of stuff in here: digital, radar, VLF signals on the low end, satellite submarine communication, voice, AM is in this. Medium wave is in this band for like AM stations that you'd pick up in your car or your home set. So just looking across the spectrum, knowing where I'm at near the 49 meter AM radio broadcast band, most of these are going to be AM shortwave stations broadcast out of Europe. And the single sideband is like you have upper and lower. So right now the tuner is configured to USB, but you also have lower sideband. You have CW, which is like for Morse code or really, really narrow bandwidth, small bandwidth things, like beacons, Morse code. Certain digital modes are best listened to in the CW mode. And it's all about how many you know, hertz or kilohertz across is your signal. So here on the AM You can flip it to AM, and we're in the shortwave band, and we'll pick up an AM station.
Please tell those American preachers to stay home, because they come over here teaching us that we should have McCain. Well, we have suffered so much.
And of course, it's Kooky Brother Star, all the way over, reaching all the way over to Europe from Florida. She's passed away. But I can look at that and tell you that's AM. This is going to be a Stenag data stream. Military encrypted data. Or actually, no, it's radar. That sounds like Russian over the horizon. Here's a small bandwidth data stream. With some voice intermixed into it real low. Let's see, what else can I show you guys? But yeah, if you want to torture your ears, get into radio listening. Here's really bright, powerful over the horizon radar. So we're listening to a large chunk of it there, and if you want to listen to a small chunk of it, you narrow your bandwidth, and now you're only really listening to that part, what's underneath this cursor. So more bandwidth, you hear more of it. Even more bandwidth, you hear more of it. And if you want to hear the whole thing or measure it, like that's as large as this receiver will even let you go. But you can see how wide compared to a really wide AM signal that is, how many kilohertz across, and how disruptive that is. So hopefully that's pretty much a crash course into what a waterfall is useful for. Hopefully that helps you out. And these are just simply, when you see instances like this, the Russians are very creative with their channel markers. You know, you've got the buzzer, you've got the pip, the goose, and they're basically just, they discourage that portion of the frequency from being used until they want to use it. And then they turn the channel marker off or lower the power if it's at another location that wants to use that frequency. And it's like a bookmark with barbed wire around it. And only you have the keys to reach in and take that bookmark off without getting cut, you know, as far as clean usage of it. Yeah, I'm nerding out here. I should stop. But trying to answer a question and be helpful and educational and all that kind of stuff too. So it's a lot of radio dorks would say, oh, don't talk about that stuff. You don't tell people about what this is and what that is. And it's just, there's this weird, and I don't know where it comes from. I've never understood it myself. There's this weird gatekeeping in radio, and I find it very odd. You know, I think the more people understand what they're looking at, because unfortunately there are YouTube channels out there and different places that will use obscure information like HF radio signals, sounds, waveforms to tell you a lie. So I think if more people understand what they're looking at, or at least have been brushed up against it, the chances of you being of someone being bamboozled with something that's adjacent to radio, radio understanding, I'm not cool with that. I don't want something that I understand to be used to bamboozle or fool or get someone to think a certain way about a certain situation, or to think something is imminent when it's not. I don't really like that. So I have no problem telling you, hey, this is a Russian channel marker, and it has a really mundane, boring job. And for, many, many hours out of the year, you'll never hear anything on there. But when you do hear a message, Beth Tanner, I can see your comments. Oh, I'm a nerd. Yes. Yeah. I'm a radio nerd, dork, whatever you want to call me. But, yeah, 90% of the time, you'll never see anything on these frequencies. And another 5% of the time, they're just random housekeeping, they're just checking to make sure equipment works if and when they need it. And then, 1 to the other 5% of the time, it might be a message of importance that is worthy of note during a particular set of geopolitical events. But 95% of the time, there's no story, The nothing ever happens crowd lives freely there. All right, so yeah, that's our radio dork out for the time being. And still, this is a strategic Russian military channel. Nothing going on, even with that giant UAV raid. So. And buzzer is a little bit low power, and that's because there's some encrypted voice going on to the side of it here. But there, to listen to this audibly, you just drive yourself nuts. Ramjet, how do pirates make images on the waterfall? Oh, they use a computer program called spectrum painting. Yeah. Yeah, so you might have heard of slow scan TV, where hams can send pictures to each other. Yeah, it's the same principle, only instead of sending a radio signal that will equal an image file in a computer program, you're using a computer program to broadcast on selective slices of frequency to draw an image in the waterfall. So that's why you'll hear a bunch of multi-tonal sounds across the single sideband slice, this green slice here. And by broadcasting those tones at the precise intervals and timing that they do, you can draw a picture in the waterfall. It's been around for a long time. And we can do that here live on the channel sometime if you want. But I think I'm going to have to turn on super chats, so it makes you send me money so I do cool stuff. And I've kind of hold you ransom when really I'm charging you to witness radio nerd dork stuff. So I don't know how good of a capitalistic equation that's going to turn out to be, but maybe we'll try it. So Lovely Lace asks, can you stop jamming and hear what they are actually saying? Like in a case like on the buzzer here, where you've got encrypted off to the side, like this segment here? Is that what you're asking? To decrypt that? You would basically have to have the same software, you know, and hardware and the encryption keys, which a digital encryption like that is pretty much unbreakable. If it could be broken, they wouldn't use it. Yeah. And, you know, it's like our methods of encryption with our companies too. They look very different than that, but they are just as effective. And, you know, you have to basically capture equipment. And then on top of that, you'd have to have someone willing to commit espionage to help you, you know, keep up with the different keys in the software. And it's a highly technical endeavor to even get close. And it's probably shut off. Like, let's say they keep, you know, a lot of those units are somewhat classified, not classified, but they're, you know, strategically important material. So the serial numbers are recorded, they're tracked. You know, each aircraft that might have an encryption kit or set of encryption hardware, and that aircraft goes down, they're going to basically take the key away from that piece of hardware, and it's not going to work. Kind of like losing your phone, you know. And imagine that governments and the cell phone carriers, the company, didn't already conspire to give them a back door into it. This doesn't have any back doors. They'll just change the encryption key in their broadcast, and the program in the software of the hardware won't know what to do with the new set of protocol, and it'll just pick up this, you know, it'll just sound like static noise. So not in the open, in other words. Higher than usual activity on radar today. No, it's a little bit busy for a Sunday, but not unusual for what has happened geopolitically here lately. And segments of the air bridge are still going down to the Middle East, so we're still running supplies. Kind of light in Europe right now, but it's middle of the night over there. Got a Ranger unit headed somewhere. This is a little thick for... We've got some elements moving around here, but I wouldn't call it alarming. What's up, Tiffany? Let's see what's moving. We've got some training flights going on. I'm sure those guys are happy to be in the air on a nice day. Got some higher priority convoys moving around. We're moving some stuff around. Got some diplomats getting to where they want to be. Look at this activity up here in Newark. So the United States via the Canucks have headed up to Greenland, and looks like we got a Diplo flight that came back down from our never going to be 51st state, but they're going to say it anyway to get people either excited or riled, depending on whether you tie a red ribbon around your brain or a blue ribbon around your brain and cut off all the blood supply. So yeah, a little bit of clutter for a Sunday afternoon, but nothing to get your, nothing that'll keep you from going outside and enjoying a nice day. Hi, Skylar. I'm sorry to hear that. You might want to get some medicated cream or get that looked at so you don't, make sure you don't have parasites. Consult a medical professional. Don't just sit there and scratch it. Because that's nasty. What? I got family showing up in the chat. Please block her. No, that's entertaining. Tiffany, who do you want me to block? Your daughter's here giving you a hard time? A government-sanctioned, medically approved butt stuff medication. She's a straight weirdo. Takes all kinds. Yep. Oh, I can. Being a moderator for other channels, you'd be well, maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but it can get way darker than that. People, man, just there's something about that separation of not physically being in front of somebody that makes some people say the darndest things. It's funny to me. It doesn't bother me at all. It just, if that's the representation of yourself you want to put out there, then good luck with that. All right, who's squawking here now? And of course, that's the other thing, Murphy's Law with monitoring radio. Okay, it's just going to be aircraft traffic because of that that tone there. It's commercial flight. Air traffic control, ATC. Probably New York getting picked up in Poland. Yep, as soon as you see it on the waterfall, a lot of times it's just gone. Like, oh, well, I guess it wasn't that important anyway. Silver's getting out of pocket doing impressions. Okay, let's see if we can find something somewhat interesting for you guys. Or I can just find some Over the Horizon and have you listen to that for 4 hours. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to you all. Let's see if anything interesting is coming up. .22, so we're getting close to actually UTC Monday time. It is 22:31 UTC right now on Sunday. Sunday's about over in Universal Time Land. Sunday, May 17th. Where has the year gone? $22.31, 23:10. Yeah, the only thing at the end of the day here is going to be M12 out of Russia as far as the secret squirrel spy network stuff. And that's a CW code, Morse code, with just digits. One-time pad secret squirrel stuff out of Moscow and Karaborovsk, if I said that right, Karaborovsk, Russia. And we got some hot plane-on-plane refuel action going on, maybe. Strangers in the night. Happy girls, fill you in on what's up. Chicken's ass when it's eaten. If you've never heard that one before. Yeah, we're watching Only Planes. Hi, Queen Twilight. No, it does not mean the world's going to end if I have a live. Sometimes I just come on to have a chat and tell you about some stuff that's happening way far away that you wouldn't know about if you turned all these existential doom machines off, your existential doom rectangle, and you threw it in a pond, and you went and made yourself something to eat and walked up and down a hiking trail, and you'd be fine. But no, in all seriousness, there was a major drone attack on Moscow. Probably the largest since the war started. And so I was curious to see if there was going to be any immediate response. I gave like a 50-50 shot to see if there would be any drastic strategic action on the Russian side, but doesn't look like it. I mean, there's been some chatter increase. They're not letting us see any planes on the Russian side as far as, taking off for the Urals or anything crazy like that. So they're probably going to do the typical Russian thing, which is absorb it, say they're pissed about it, and then in a week and a half they'll do a equally large attack on Kyiv. And back and forth it goes, and round until one side runs out of money, blood, and material. Or support. So that's what's going on. We'll turn some tunes on here because I'm going to have to vacate the station to run a quick errand, and then I'll be back. But about the most interesting thing I've seen today is this activity up by Newark in Greenland, which is a little odd for Sunday, but doesn't mean doom is on the way or anything like that. So a lot of transport convoys, high priority convoys coming in. So I mean, there are some people moving around. That's kind of interesting. But nothing imminent. Doom, destruction. Yeah, I'm really not designing the channel to be where people pile in to watch explosions on screen and then talk about ham sandwiches and then leave. Not really what I'm going for. And we talked about some radio dork stuff, so if you're just coming in now, catching you up. Yeah, some comings and goings at some more far-flung places. Like up here, I think is what, Yellowknife? Yeah, the Canucks have a pretty good size base up here for defense and stuff. But that could be hauling freaking Kool-Aid and MREs, Kit Kats and Twix. Just because it's up there in the air doesn't mean it's imminent destruction. Rapture is here. Temu order. China says hi. That is the mystery, whether it's the left Twix or the right Twix. If it's both, it's going to be breaking news. Furry bound? I don't even know if I want to ask. Oh, fury bound. Okay. Okay, not furry. Okay. Whew. It's like Ramjet's comments last night. There he is. Attracted to all the wrong crowd. Lord Almighty. You don't have to put JK after every comment. You can just throw it out there, man. Bye, Sigrid. Thanks for popping in. Skylar, what are your thoughts on the current geopolitical arrangement in the Middle East? That's what I want to know. I want to know what you think about Operation Roaring Lion, Operation Epic Fury. Tell us what you think. Was that worthwhile journey to do? Should we have left them alone? What do you think about the matter? So we do cover topics like that from time to time. Well, if you don't want to tackle that one, tell us what you think about life. What do you think about what we're doing here on this giant spinning mud ball, hurtling through space? What's the point of all this? Deeply, deeply philosophical question, Sparrow. A simulation, Ramjet says. Life is awesome, but I don't care about life. I just care about boys and internet. So boys and internet is life to you. Boys and internet. Well, that'll mean your mom has her hands full. That's for sure. Yeah, well, there's more to the human experience than just that. So I would encourage you to explore outside of that current narrow boundaries you set for yourself. Doesn't change much as you get older. All right, there's my alarm. You guys ponder how we can help Skylar engage in the chat and in the channel in a very meaningful way. I mean, I am a male, I'm not a boy. I'm a man on the internet, so I'm currently like right up her alley apparently. But we go much deeper into the happenings of the world and technology than just a surface level man on internet. So, talk amongst yourselves. I'll be back after a while because I do got to run an errand. It'll take me about 10-15 minutes or so, and then I'll be back. So, is the background music a good level? I'll leave the flight radar up. I'm going to unmute 89902. If over the horizon radar comes on while I'm gone, I apologize. I don't mean to torture you with that in particular. But we'll leave only planes up, and 89902 looks like there is some activity going on. So you never know. You might hear Skymasters today. No, you won't. You're not. Possibility of a Skymaster is less than 1%. Sorry. But you never know what you're going to hear. So I'll be back. Okay, I'm back, guys. I'm back with you. So, too bad for those that bailed during the respite. Thanks for hanging in there. I saw Munchie was in here. If Munchie's still in here. Did you get caught up there, Rosef? Munchinator. Hello, Ramjet, you're still in here. Well, Lori, I hate to break this to you, but Putin is not in a hole. I'm sure they mind his security, but he's not hiding anywhere. He's gonna go visit his bud in China. They're going to talk about what they're going to do with the pesky USA and the pesky West. And my prediction is they're going to let... yeah, I like to think a lot of things too, but it doesn't take too much effort to figure out what's going on. But you're bombarded with a narrative. I get that. So I can't lay blame totally on an individual. It's hidden from your sight most of the time with great effort. But yeah, their next move, I think what's going to happen is they're going to try among the BRICS nations, they're going to try and split the difference. They're going to go ahead and let Russia deal with the West, since we're making noises on the surface that we're pulling our influence from Europe, doing some token troop cancellations and troop pullouts, and a lot of that is just surface window dressing. But the Europeans are definitely under some economic pain because of our policy direction and our actions not being well thought out. So their populations are getting pissed, and it's going to trickle up into their government and the EU and all that kind of stuff. So they're probably going to let, from the point of view of Russia, China, BRICS countries, they're going to let China deal with the US, and Russia's going to deal with Europe. And you're going to see the fallout from that. Because you're going to start seeing people in the coming months, as this energy shock takes hold and populations can't deny that there's real world consequences for doing stupid stuff abroad, and practicing gunboat diplomacy. Yeah, it's going to start affecting populations, and you're going to see who true buddies are here coming up pretty soon. Couple months as we get into the summer. Yeah, Ramjet, unfortunately you're probably correct, because there's really no room on the escalation ladders to continue like it is. Someone's gonna get what they think is a bright idea to use a tactical nuclear device of some kind and try and prove a point, and it's not going to go well. have someone explain how any of this improves humanity. It doesn't. They think there's too many NPCs on the planet. So we need things like famine and war and chaos and economic disruption to start thinning the numbers down. There's too many of you peasants running around, see? And they're constantly bumping into you when they're taking the nature walks. They don't like that. So, time to start thinning it out. It's good advice overall. Go outside and breathe. Unfortunately, it gets to all the wrong, the people that need it don't do it. Though there is something to say about being blissfully ignorant about what's going on in the world. It does improve your peace. But it'll leave you flat-footed when it's time to act, unfortunately. Oh, they love nature. They just don't think you should be a part of nature. Or there's too many of you. Are they wrong, though? Well, I mean, yes and no. That's a very complex ethical question. If you think about it, it's like once life is present, it's only that entity's decision on whether it should, stay or go through its own actions. So no one else has a right to decide whether segments of life should cease to exist or continue to exist by aid or intervention. That's a question for the processes of nature that only those processes can flesh out. Well, you have a great night too, happy girls. Go spend time with your daughter. That's where it's at. Brain dead people, yeah. But is it all their own doing? How much of that is pollution into their mind, making them that way? That's not their fault. I've said it before, I'm kind of an optimist. I give people the benefit of the doubt, and I think, there's some people that choose to not know anything that's going on around the world and realize what dangers, and I think they do that I think some people do that so they can just maximize the joy and the positive things that can be in their lives. So I totally get doing that. I'm an advocate for doing that to some degree, but I think you should also be aware of threat vectors to your future and your family members and your friends, things like that. Yeah, and the Purge movies could become a real-life event. I mean, with the absence of certain understood social norms, yeah, absolutely. You can have events like the Purge. I mean, the Purge is just Hollywood complete anarchy. It wouldn't really happen that way in real life, exactly that way, of course, because you're going to have a huge subset of the population that does have some moral compass, and it's going to keep them from engaging in a lot of that stuff. And then you have natural human responses to those events that would be like cowardice, fight or flight. Usually it's flight that takes over. But I mean, in some pockets, it could happen that way. Hunger Games, yeah. I mean, a lot of this dystopian stuff is from imagination, but you need some point of reference as possibilities for imagination. The person that comes up with that stuff has to ask themselves the question, is that, you know, how feasible is that, and how far into the land of fiction do I want to go? I believe right now we're all living in, especially in the West, and the East too, but especially in the West, we're living during the time that Skynet actually exists, like from the Terminator movies. And the Terminators aren't humanoid yet, but they're drones. They're the little robot dog looking things. Live stream last night, I showed a heat map of the flock cameras and went into that whole subject in the wee hours of the morning. I mean, everything's there. AI integration is into it already. Multi-layering of data sets to figure out who you are, what you believe, what you might likely do, how much of a threat you are to the system. All that stuff's there. They just haven't turned on the guns yet. They could do that tomorrow, because they could have done it weeks ago, months ago. You already have some corporations that have completely robotic security. You know, there's a human in the chain there somewhere, typically, looking through a camera, but it's there. So it gets to the point where you're better off not thinking that it's not possible, or you don't want to believe it, and start learning, you know, where the critical damage points to these devices are. That's where you should be right now. Know where the batteries and cameras are, so you can shoot them out, paint over them, throw a balloon full of black paint and asphalt mix over the cameras or over the sensors. Yeah, you got an uphill battle there fighting the flock system. Let's see if I can find that heat map again. Show you what you're up against. If it'll render the map finally. Come on, you mother. Observing the spinning wheel of pointlessness. Okay. Oh, now it finally decided to do something. There's your coverage. Yeah, I got a couple drones. I don't get to fly them as much as I'd like to, but every once in a while on nice days I'll take them out. And I ruined a very expensive drone not too long ago because I wanted to try and see if it'll operate in the rain and the darkness, and I zigged when I should have zagged, and I smacked that sucker like right into a tree at 80 miles an hour. Yeah. It was a full-on hit. I didn't even see it. The light was just right, and I total operator error, just kablooey. I think I was able to recover a battery and like one propeller. It happens. And there's some areas of the world where they're blowing them up by the pallet daily, so. Yeah, what areas you guys want to see? Look at all the flock over here, and you'll notice it's also coincident with, you know, military installations as well. But just look at Colorado Springs and Denver, how covered that is. And you got your Space Force base out there, NORAD. Kansas City, St. Louis. On the East Coast and Chicago area. Look at Chicago, my goodness. Detroit, Cleveland, New York. Atlanta is covered. We were joking about Florida Man earlier. Florida Man's not able to throw any turtles without getting caught by a flock camera. But that's only one overlay. You know, that's just your on the ground. You also have your, you know, you also have your personal devices, your cell phones, your tablets, your smart TVs that fill in the gap. So what these do, so it's layered surveillance, and layered from satellite level on down to your phone and these flock cameras. And they know what you're doing. Yeah, we talked about that quite a bit last night in the early wee hours. So yellow in that map, yeah. Yep. There's not much hiding to do. And there's a thing about negative space as well, whereas if you fall off the grid, you fall off the network in a certain fashion, that jumps out as well. You know, because you were a big, bright, glowing data point and you just boop, disappeared. They check the negative space as well, and they don't like that. Oh, it goes as far as your imagination wants to take you on imaging, tracking, population management. It goes as far as you want to imagine into even if you get into science fiction, you're still going to be half right. That's what those large hypercenters and data centers and stuff are for. All that computing power is not just to render cute AI images of rabbits and cats and Will Smith eating spaghetti. They bill it as that, cloud storage. You know, that's what they tell you. But it's your digital prison bars. Let's do a quick Twitter news check, see if anything rapido is breaking. Seeing a lot of messaging for Cuba today. I guess I better disclose what I think about that. You know, I'll show you a true social post so you can see what the messaging is. Here's the latest True Social post from TJ. That's what he's worried about putting on social media tonight. Looks like there's a huge tornado on the ground in Nebraska. Ooh, that doesn't look good at all. Okay, where was that story I just read about Cuba? Okay, so yeah, he's done all kinds of crazy social media. It could just be to flake out oil investment, to do market skimming. So you'll have 18 of these type messages, and then when it comes to nut cutting time, 50 days. But they were able to skim the differential off the pre-market oil market, you know, and make a cool $1 billion and then shut up for a week. That's what a lot of this stuff is. Market manipulation. All right, so apparently from Reuters Newswire, Shipping giant CMA, CGM, and Hapag-Lloyd suspend all bookings to and from Cuba until further notice. And that news is a couple hours old. I don't know what to think about how concrete actually doing something is. The other story I saw recently about Cuba, I don't know if I can find it, but Cuba is not Venezuela. Venezuela, it took them a better part of about a year and a half to buy their way into cracking the Venezuelan regime, and they were able to do that because they were pretty much glorified drug cartels leaders and kind of sort of socialists. But really, at their core, Maduro and all those guys, they're drug kingpins. They just purchased and horse traded and murdered their way into power in that country. And then to try and manage the population, they put everybody under, socialistic systems. But, money is a powerful weapon in that type of scenario. Cuba are the true believers. They are communists to the core, and they are fighting the good fight against the quote-unquote capitalist pigs, yada yada yada. I saw a story, and I tend to believe that it's one of two things. It's a half truth and a half truth to mix a narrative a little bit, but to get Americans on board with striking Cuba or doing some type of action. And it's also could be, my gut feeling is also halfway a warning. It was basically Cuba has, since 2023, the crux of the story is, since 2023, Cuba's slowly but surely smuggled in a few hundred military drones from Iran and from Russia and a few other places, and they've got this hodgepodge military drone, inventory. And the idea there is obviously attacking Guantanamo Bay, Key West, and likely southern Florida. Could be a possibility with those drones. I mean, they would pay a horrific price if they did pull something like that off, but there would be pandemonium in the United States if if they had a successful attack and got a bunch of drones into, Mar-a-Lago or something like that while TJ was there. Yeah, the Russians always have, it's not really big news. The Russians always maintain a strategic deterrence presence in the Gulf of Mexico, in the Caribbean, and on the east and west coast of the United States. Their Navy, their strategic submarines are always deployed, just like ours are. Whether they decide to do something with it or not, unlikely. Yeah, that shouldn't be breaking news to anybody that there's a sub in and around Cuba or docked at Cuba or Russian warships visiting Cuba. They're buds. They've been compatriots and comrades for a long, long time. There's not much support. I mean, very little, because of all the embargoes that Russians can send a lot of equipment to and from for port calls because they'd have trouble getting that volume of fuel, oil, and replenishment. So, but as like a gesture or signaling, geopolitical signaling, you're always going to have Russian stuff there. The real threat in Cuba that Washington doesn't like is the amount of espionage and EW that takes place from Chinese listening posts in relative close proximity to our mainland. That's what they really don't like. and they don't like that the Cuban regime allowed that all those facilities to get built and maintained, and possible weapons there from China. But that's the money. That's the big value, is the Chinese espionage in the U.S. It's all their signals intelligence. They have, I think, 3 or 4. The Chinese have 3 or 4 stations down there, and they just soak up all the signals intelligence from the U.S. mainland and then process it, and that goes into their operating environment. So if we're doing anything to Cuba, it's pretty much for that reason. It's the long game against China that we're going to be facing. All right, crew, it's getting into the evening. And I'm going to have to, I think I'm going to shut her down. I'm not seeing any reason why you kiddos can't go outside and play. And I want to get some projects done too on my side, so, and enjoy a little bit till we hit Monday again. So don't see any cause for alarm. Should have a nice night if it's not storming and naders aren't breathing down your back like in the Midwest. You can probably see that here on flight information too. If I show all flights, there's probably going to be, yep. There's your weather hole right there. Got a couple pockets. So yeah, there's some storms out there messing around, so be wary of that if you're in that part of the country. Thanks, Dad. I didn't really mean it that way. I stumbled on the word kiddo. But I don't mean to be condescending in that way. You'll have to forgive me, Lori. Forgive my trespass against I. But yeah, doesn't look to me like the Russians are getting their panties in too much of a twist. They're gonna probably take their time. Nice to see you, Leslie. Thanks for hanging out. While I was gone, was there anything super critical on 8, 9, or 9 or 2 that played? Imagine it would have been being discussed if there was. Yeah. So, yep. Enjoy your evening, crew. Eat a good meal. Go outside, walk around, get some sunshine, get some vitamin D. Listen to the birds or the gunshots or whatever you might have in your local environ. Drink water. Close the screens down for a while. I appreciate you watching me while I'm on, but if you ever say, you know what, I need to go outside and touch grass later, I would totally understand, would not hold it against you. So take it easy, and we'll start a whole new day here pretty soon. I think the UTC day is about done. You're welcome, Charlotte. Don't worry, if you guys keep watching me, we'll get to the point where you'll be able to do super chats and stuff like that and throw me money, and then I'll, like I said earlier, I'll dump it back into the channel, and then we'll start messing with some really cool stuff. If you like looking at stars and sky and unknown objects in the sky and different things like that, and messing with technology. I could break out the HF radio now and have it in the background, but I don't know, it's interesting to some. I got some ideas for the channel. That's more than just watching only planes and the static machine. So we'll hit it again soon. I'm going to turn it back to the title screen and leave the music on for a little bit, and I got to go anyway. So actually I'm going to do a rapid shutdown here. So thanks for being here. Good to see you all. Have a good night and take care.